Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. Back with some more vibes for all you. And let's go to China and Ting, you know what I mean? This is one of the cultures and the history that fascinate me. And I know it's gonna sound stupid, but when I was a kid, we used to get a lot of those kung fu movies, you know what I mean? And I instead of watching the storyline, I just watched all the characters and the scenery and stuff that come with it. So I always used to daydream about going there to see what it's like, not to see kung fu movies and stuff. It's to see the culture and all of that, to see if what they're showing is sort of real to it. I'm talking about the culture. It's not the flying and all of that. We know that that's cinematography. I'm talking about the actual culture and stuff like that. So here's what we're going to look at here. The history of China in 10 minutes. The animated Chinese history in a nutshell. We're going to check that out and see what's going on, all right? Let's YouTube and simmer.
Grab some popcorn and sit down, because this will be a pretty long video. Ancient China was one of the oldest civilizations in our history. The history of ancient China can be traced back over 4,000 years ago. What is now the territory of China was inhabited by early hominids more than 1,000,000 years ago. Studies show that some stone tools dated to 1.3 million years ago. Early evidence of Proto-Chinese agriculture dated to about 7,000 BC, and it seems that the earliest evidence of cultivated rice is from 8,000 years ago. Farming was the main reason for the growth of cultures and population in China. Farming gave the rise to the Jiahu culture, which developed the Chinese proto-writing. Yangtze, the Yellow and the Pearl rivers provided.
You know, a lot of people don't consider that there was civilizations BC. You know what I mean? And it's still kind of, wait a minute, this culture was around BC? It was around before that time? That's kind of interesting to know. So we have all of these civilizations, and they probably all have their own spiritual and religious beliefs. And then all of a sudden, we have the two main ones that we have right now. It's interesting how we change, huh? What's it going to change to in the future?
The necessary fertile lands for agriculture. Because of this, many other cultures were created and expanded in this area. Large communities flourished from 5 to 3000 BC, with evidence of agriculture, constructed buildings, and burial of the dead. In late Neolithic times, the Yellow River began to establish itself as a center of Yangshao culture, and the first villages were founded. Later, Yangshao culture was superseded by the Longshan culture, which was also centered on the Yellow River from about 3000 BC to 2000 BC. In the Bronze Age, artifacts have been found. Metallurgy begins to appear in the Yangtze Valley in the 6th century BC. The history of ancient China as an organized society could start with the Xia Dynasty, which is believed to be the first. This dynasty was considered mythical by historians until some excavations were made, and after some research, it's believed that it existed. The Xia Dynasty.
See, it was considered mythical until actual discovery was made. I wonder how many of the mythical stuff that we talk about in stories and stuff, and throughout human history, how much of it was actual? How much of it actually existed? But it become mythical because we don't understand it, or we have no concrete evidence that it exists.
Ended after the Battle of Mingtiao between them and the Shang tribe, which resulted in a Shang victory. And the Shang Dynasty ruled China for about 600 years. The Jew Dynasty was the longest lasting dynasty in Chinese history. The spring and autumn period is marked by the falling apart of this central power. China broke up in hundreds of small states. In time, the larger and more powerful states annexed and claimed suzerainty over the small ones. Big personalities like Confucius or Sun Tzu lived in this period, ruled by instability known as the Warring States. The Qin Dynasty unified these states and created a Great Wall of of China. The Han Dynasty was a period of economic growth, stability and prosperity for Chinese people. The Han Dynasty is named the Golden Age in Chinese history by building the foundation of China as an unified and powerful state. Science, art and culture all advanced as it wasn't seen before in this part of the world. One example, mathematical innovations. The dynasty name Han had been taken as the name of the Chinese people we know today as Han Chinese. The Han expanded into the west and the Silk Road was opened. The Three Kingdoms. By the 2nd century the empire declined and three kingdoms were born, Wei, Shu and Wu. In 266 the Jin Dynasty overthrew the Wei and later unified the country in 280, but for a short period of time. Northern China divided into a series of independent kingdoms, most of which were founded by Xiongnu, Xianbei, Jie, Die and Xiang rulers, which were ethnically speaking Mongols, Turks or Tibetans. This period is known as the 16 Kingdoms period and it's marked by instability. In the early 5th century, China entered a period known.
Think about it. If those kingdoms had survived now, what would that landmass look like? It wouldn't be a power as it is. It would just be a bunch of different kingdoms being ruled separately. That's pretty interesting to think about.
Known as the Northern and Southern Dynasties, in which many regimes ruled the northern and the southern halves of the country. In the south, the Jin gave way to the Liu Song, Southern Qi, Liang and Chen, while in the north the nomadic people called Xianbei will unify the kingdoms with the name of Northern Wei. The Northern Wei eventually split into Eastern and Western Wei. These regimes were dominated by Xianbei or Han Chinese who had married into Xianbei families. From this one we can learn that the marriage between royal families could change borders or regimes, pretty much as in medieval Europe. During this time the Xianbei will be assimilated by the Han people. Buddhism spread through the land of China despite the division of the country. Sui Dynasty unified China again, ending the 3 centuries of political division. Sui China was known for its numerous mega construction projects. Intended for grains shipment and transporting troops, the Grand Canal was constructed, linking the capitals Daxing and Luoyang to the wealthy southeast region, and in another route to the northeast border. The Great Wall was also expanded, while a series of military conquests and diplomatic maneuvers
still building
were
on
made.
it as
However,
time
the
goes
massive
by.
invasion of the Korean peninsula failed, and that led to the fall of this dynasty. Most Chinese regard the Tang Dynasty as the high point of Imperial China. The Tang Dynasty was founded by Emperor Gaozu on 18 June 618. It was a golden age of Chinese civilization and one of the most prosperous periods of China with significant developments. Chang'an, the capital, is believed to be the largest city in the world during its time. Due to internal revolts, China will break up again. The period is known as 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms. The period of political disunity lasted from 907 to 960. 5 regimes, Liang, Tang, Jin, Han and Zhou, rapidly succeeded one another in the control of the empire. Most stable and smaller regimes of mostly ethnic Han rulers coexisted in southern and western China.
I wonder if
over
there's
the
a lot of
period
wars
10
during that
kingdoms.
time, you know?
Wars dominated
for
the
territory.
northern China and there were mass southward migrations. In 960, the Song Dynasty was founded by Emperor Taizu. The Song Dynasty reunified most of China, but there were 2 more kingdoms in the north, Western Xia and Liao. Song attacked Liao for some territories close to the Great Wall. The campaign was a failure and Liao imposed heavy annual tributes from the Song treasury. Within the Liao Empire, some tribes revolted against their overlords to establish the Jin Dynasty in 1115, which fought the Song and took the northern provinces. The era will end with a Mongol invasion. Western Xia
Comes the
fell in
Mongols
1227, the Jin Dynasty in 1234,
They're
and
everywhere.
finally the Southern Song Dynasty fell in 1279. The new Mongol dynasty, the Yuan, was formally proclaimed in 1271 when the Great Khan, Kublai Khan, one of the grandsons of Genghis Khan, assumed the additional title of the Emperor of China. In this period, the Grand Canal was reconstructed and Quanzhou and Hangzhou emerged as the largest ports in the entire world. The contact to the west happened. Marco Polo settled in China and then inspired other Europeans to reach the Far East. In this dynasty, the paper was used as a method of currency for the first time. This was the father of our banknotes. Some Chinese didn't want to be under a Mongolian regime, and some revolts happened, and the Ming Dynasty will form in 1368. Before Mongolian invasions, Chinese dynasties reported 120 million people living in China, afterwards reporting just 60 million people, due to invasion, killing, plague, and maybe failure to record the exact numbers. Urbanization increased as the population grew again. China became a power once more, making contact with the outside world, Japan, states from Indochina, and exploring the Indian Ocean and even the east coast of Africa and Arabia. This was the exploration of Shanghai. The Manchurians proclaimed the Qing Dynasty, which ruled all of China and was the last imperial dynasty. Chinese defeated a new power in the region, Russia, and established a border in the north. By the end of the 18th century, China was a world power. 1/3 of the world's population existed in Chinese Empire, and they had the largest economy in the world. But after this, it was a collapse again for the Chinese. China was defeated by British in the First Opium War, losing Hong Kong. Clan wars, rebellions, religious wars all made the empire weaker and weaker. China losing millions of people in these years. The Western powers sought to claim some territories in these regions. At the end of the 19th century, China lost the first Sino-Japanese war against Japan, the new power on the east. Seeing all the struggles, failing of reformation and instability, the dynasty was overthrown and the republic was proclaimed in 1912, ending 2000 years of dynastic rule over China. At the end of the First World War, a large wave of dissatisfaction hit China, because at the Treaty of Versailles, the German territories in China were given to Japan instead. After the war, many communist revolts started in China, and fights happened between government and communist revolutionaries, which tried to make like a Chinese-Soviet country. But when the Second Sino-Japanese War started, the Chinese formed an united front against their common enemy. The Second Sino-Japanese War is part of the World War II, where Japanese forces tried to invade China, but they failed. After 1945, when Japanese forces surrendered, a civil war happened in China, and the communists had established control over most of the country in the final. The nationalist government retreated to Taiwan. On 1st October 1949, Mao Zedong proclaimed the People's Republic of China. From that time on, a large growth of population happened, from 500 million people to 1.3 billion today. China started to build industries and factories, and building up its economy. It was accepted as the real China in 1972 and was admitted to the United Nations in place of Republic of China, today's Taiwan. The communist China took a different step than the other communist countries, making more liberal reforms and opening their market. By doing so, the economy grew rapidly with more than 10% per year for more than 20 years. Today, China is a world power, as it was back in the time. And I really think China as a country has one of the most, if not the richest history in the entire world. I want to thank you for watching this long video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please...
and the thing, this is summarized. They haven't even touched the surface of all that's going on there. When you have so many people, ups and downs of populations and stuff, the history must be immense. And also, you know, to understand everybody in there, because of course there's different factions and stuff like that. As you could tell, it was broken up into pieces, put back together, broken up into pieces, put back together. That's a crazy history. That's a topsy-turvy little history going on there. But anyway, man, thank you all for watching this with me, and Tang, you know what I mean? But keep watching right there. I'm going to put a link in the description of this video, so you can go check it out. Check out this channel. As you can see, it popped up there. They have stuff on China, on Japan also. So go check it out, the thing, see where they are about the thing. But before you go there, keep watching my stuff. Get your snack, get your popcorn, get your ground nuts, get whatever you want. Sit back and relax and ting and watch a brother. You know what I mean? Or watch it with a brother. Anyway, man, you guys take care of each other. Cool runnings, all right?